Hello, New Rochelle. This is Superintendent Jonathan Raymond, and welcome to another edition of What Matters Most. We are taping at Trinity Elementary School, where everything you do matters. First, some good news. Congratulations to our varsity cheerleading team for coming in 6th place at East Regionals at Arlington High School. And congratulations to New Rochelle High School senior Emma Farley on being awarded the Global Seal of Biliteracy for her fluency in Mandarin. Way to go. And for some quick fun facts, did you know that most hummingbirds weigh less than a nickel? And did you know that it takes around 2,000 tiny leaves to make just 1 pound of tea? And finally, did you know that Mexico is the 4th largest nation in the Americas? I didn't know about at least 2 of those fun facts. Got a special guest in studio today, Al Prentice McCutcheon. Al,
Hey.
Wonderful to see you.
Likewise.
New Rochelle
Likewise.
High School's social studies teacher. It's so great to have you here.
Likewise, appreciate it being
Yeah,
here.
yeah. Can you, many of our viewers obviously know you, but for those that may not, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up coming to New Rochelle in your time at the high school?
Sure. Well, Al McCutcheon, this is my 26th year teaching as a social studies educator. I was in Elmsford for 15 of those years, and of course, I was in the city for about a few more years. But
We're
prior
okay
to
with
that. I came to New Rochelle because I live here. My family's here. My wife and my 3 children are here, and they were attending the schools here as well. And a position opened up, and I said,
Right.
you know what better way to support the community than not only living here, but also now working here in the field in which I serve, which is education, in the high school particularly.
One of the things I love, and I know your students, is how much you value their voice and you honor their voice and and their perspective. Can you talk a little bit about why that's so important?
Well, I mean, it's an old cliche, but the children, they definitely are our future. But let's go further than that. If we can begin to think about how we can elevate student voices, and we just had an election, for example, if we can begin to think about how students can now present their ideas in a way that's in a way that's going to allow them to show their perspectives around interests for them, we're going to now empower them. We're going to build confidence. We're going to build a skill base. And we're going to build, most importantly, the imagination they're going to need for the 21st century. Right. A lot of times, we expect of our students to be imaginative. We expect for them to be creative, but sometimes it may be difficult in terms of our restraints and restrictions that we have that come down to us from on high. So when we give those opportunities to build those voices, build those creative opportunities and build that imaginable opportunities, and they're only going to benefit from it tenfold.
Now, we just can't bring them into a classroom and just say, oh, okay, be creative, be imaginative, but the approach that we are using, and particularly that you structure and frame in your classrooms around projects, and talk a little bit about how project learning, right, is so important to unlocking those skills that you just talked about.
So project-based learning is just that. It unlocks the skills, it unlocks the interest level, it unlocks the creativity, it unlocks the relevance. So I work with, at the high school, as an example, the district as a whole, but the high school as an example, with brilliant educators. And those brilliant educators have opportunities to produce and introduce material to students. When we can incorporate ideas around performance-based assessments or projects, exhibitions, portfolios, and it gives students a better opportunity to go into depth and to show what they know, either through the arts, or through whether it be the performing arts or fine arts, or whether it be through their writing skills, because many are writers, and that's one of our dominant forms of expression, or through their means of choreography or performance or what have you. And when we can give them a chance to show what they know through the interests that they have right now and the interests that they may have later on, now we're expanding their horizons.
Right.
We're no longer situating ourselves in this kind of provincial mindset and application. We're now expanding ourselves because once again, I work with brilliant educators, and the brilliance that they bring to the table every day sometimes is stifled by the current structures that we have in terms of Regents exams and the testing that we have. But even then, the brilliance is still established and well shown by their content knowledge. So I'm actually happy to be working with the college that I have in New Rochelle High School, from the math to the science to the English to the foreign languages. Of course, I'm slightly partial to social studies and business in my department. But when we get a chance to show, and when they get a chance to show their brilliance through other opportunities besides the test, now students go deeper. We're allowed to go a little deeper. We're allowed to give students a chance to show what they know a little bit more, and more importantly, that's a chance to leverage opportunities beyond the classroom, and that's what we can do right now in the classroom.
How does project-based learning enable that? And you know, maybe more importantly, why do students love working on projects?
Well, because they're doing it. You know, they're doing history, they're doing math, they're doing science, as opposed to being given it in a very passive way. Project-based learning is a more active way of teaching and learning, learning in this case, learning. But it gives students a chance to do the work that they're learning in the classroom and see, most importantly, how it's applied to the larger world. So how can those mathematical concepts that, once again, I work with brilliant educators, and how can the math department and the science department and the English department and the foreign language department and the social studies department, how can those brilliant educators that I work with, how can they give students a chance to show how this work, this body of work in the classroom looks outside? It's eye-opening to see that stuff, to see the everyday workings of our societies literally come from this corpus of this body of knowledge in the classroom. And if we can make that connection with the kids to show that this work leads to that, and give them a chance to show how they can exemplify that, that's going to build in trust, that's going to build in buy-in, that's going to build in, once again, the creativity and the imagination that the world is asking for our kids. And we give a chance to do that. We can make these classes our laboratories of doing that. And I'm excited about that.
I can see how excited and how much you really love it. Now, you mentioned something a little bit earlier, performance assessment. Can you talk a little bit about performance assessments, why they really matter? And you said something earlier before we got on set, which is, imagine taking a test and you're actually developing and working on those skills that you need in life. Talk a little bit more about that.
So I'll start with the latter portion of that. You know, so right now we're in an era or a stage where high stakes testing, at least in our state, it rules the day. And those 3 hours that students engage in for, you know, in June or January, whenever they take the exams, or in April for younger students, really kind of dictates where their trajectory may go in terms of secondary education, but also kind of sometimes dictates what we do in the classroom as the teachers. Sometimes, once again, I told you I work with brilliant educators, and sometimes that brilliance is kind of stifled based upon those exams, those external exams. So now we have these performance-based assessments, which portfolios or projects or exhibitions are just examples of performance-based assessments. In other words, giving students the opportunity to show what they know. How can I show what this work is and what it means to me, my community, the larger world, for that matter? And when students have that opportunity, it's going to have a huge benefit for them. What it looks like, for example, robotics. It looks like going to a conference. It looks like going to doing a poetry out loud. It looks like decorating the building, high school, whatever the building is, with their artwork around the content that they're learning in class. It looks like what they do, what they are, who they are. And now we give a chance. We give an opportunity. And I want to really bring this home real quick. We give a chance to show students that we respect them because we're allowing the different modalities by which they learn and show themselves to be expressed. So when we can show them, and we can show their reflection of who they are through the different modalities, they're going to see how much we actually respect them because we're including them in all those processes of the teaching and learning, the summative assessments that come with that, the process by which we're figuring out how to develop these activities. When we're including all these things in the process, we're including all stakeholders, parents and caregivers as well. They're including this PTAs as well. When we're all included in this process, we're going to build a stronger community. We're going to truly and be more of a New World Strong when we can include all these others.
I love how there's also that peer-to-peer component, particularly when we give students an opportunity to be involved in that assessment process with their fellow students. I also love the message it sends, which is, you know what, you can do this, go back and tweak this and this and this, or you can build on that. We give kids that push, that incentive, to persevere, to go back and get it right, which you don't get on a Regents exam or a state test, right?
Many of my colleagues, like I said, are doing those things as we speak right now. They're doing peer reviews, they're doing peer critiques in the high school, and I'm sure throughout the district. So those things are happening throughout the district, and I appreciate that. Once again, what performance-based assessments does is now allows us to not just do the peer critique and kind of isolation. Now we can extend it, and through a larger, more in-depth body of work, which students can now see where my body of work began here, but if I'm allowed to revise it, be critiqued, critique others as well, now it expands, and my ideas expand, and my product expands, and my thoughts expand, and my understanding of who I am at that time, wherever that is, because it's complicated for a lot of our kids and us as adults as well. That expands as well.
Right.
We're building confidence, we're building capacity with performance-based assessments.
Yeah, and a hunger for it at New Rochelle High School?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you why there's a hunger for. Once again, when you have the brilliant educators that I work with, and I'm saying, and I'm being redundant because I'm truly believe that there's brilliant content specialists in our building, but unfortunately the Regents exam, and this is by not just my thinking, by my 25 years of experience in terms of working in different spaces, and these are our conversations that we're having, that the Regents exam it can be a provincially limiting, stifling assessment and course of work for that matter.
Right.
When the brilliance of these educators is now allowed to show itself in the classroom through the activities that are allowed to go further in depth, through smaller formative assessments that are allowed to go further in depth, through the summative assessments that are allowed to go further in depth, through kind of end of the year exit exams that are allowed to go further in depth. That really allows the teachers to now see themselves and show their creativity. And that brings a light in. If you think I'm energized, imagine the teaching body in our district now being allowed to now show its creativity, show its imagination in the classroom. Unfortunately, that's being stifled right now. So.
Well, I can tell you, it's you're the tip of the spear. We're going in that direction. So project-based learning is coming to New Rochelle.
Okay.
Performance assessments, and I know you're working at the state level. We're really honored that you're part of a small little commission and a task force. You want to just share a moment to
Sure.
On that one?
Sure. The irony is that this task force began, I think, in early 2020, late 2019. And it was a bunch of town halls that were going throughout the state in terms of graduation measures.
Right.
And I went to a couple of those. I was energized by the fact that there's a conversation about rethinking graduation measures, i.e. the Regents exam. COVID hit right in the middle of that, but they had kept planning, and I was able to apply last June and for this commission, which has educators, superintendents, instructional specialists, administrators all throughout the state, about 60 or so of us, convening to have a conversation and do some work for the next 2 years around where we think our current assessments should be, our current graduation measures, what they should look like and what they should include. And this gives me an opportunity once again to now, to query and ask my colleagues, hey, where do we think these regions, because I work with people who teach science regions, not just my associates regions, science regions, math regions. Hey, what do we think these assessments should look like? Where do we think they should go? Should we scrap them? Should we include something else? Should we include portfolios? It gives us a chance to have an authentic conversation. So rather than kind of having my own kind of feelings, I love portfolios, I love performance assessment, but maybe some of my colleagues may not. Maybe they have another brilliant idea that they want to bring to the table. So I get a chance to ask them throughout the district and even throughout the state, hey, where should we go for the benefit of our students and stakeholders?
Well, I know our students are benefiting. You've talked about it. You're walking the talk in your classroom. We had Jeff Weber, science research in another area, and that research work is all about portfolios and projects, and our students are really loving it. So we need to follow their lead. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's great to have you on here, Al. Thank you so much. I look forward to having you back on and talking about how we're spreading this throughout New Rochelle.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna let you run back to the high school now.
You got a class to teach, man.
All right. Thank you so much.
Appreciate the time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, there we go, New Rochelle. Another great edition of What Matters Most. So glad that we had Al McCutcheon on with us today, and I wish you a great rest of the week. Stay tuned for the next edition of What Matters Most. Take care, New Rochelle.